So Gen Z is coming back to reality, as mentioned. They love reality. They love the real world. And the conclusion they're coming to more than ever, I think that this is where I want to end, is that there is nothing that is more real, because they like the real stuff. They like to, like they like the stuff that you can see, smell, taste, feel, actually feel, etc. And so I think what this is ultimately is going to lead to, and why we're seeing this in the culture from multiple angles, like no one can ignore this anymore, is that there is nothing more real than God. There's nothing more real than God. And this is why this religious revival, whether it's Islam or predominantly Christianity in the West, all of the things that Gen Z values, which are traditional values being paramount, family, whatever the thing might be, traditional values, getting back to those traditional value systems are the top of what Gen Z values, are all the things that come from not the government or a social movement or a politician or an influencer or whatever. They are all things that come from morality. They are moral judgments. It is not okay, for example, to get drunk on every single weekend. It is not okay to abandon my family and spend my child's college fund on a roulette table in Vegas. It's not okay to have institutions talk to me in a way that demeans my humanity and debases me from my nature. And so when you adopt that posture, that, again, anti-authoritarian posture, it always pushes people back to faith. It always pushes people back to God, to Christianity most specifically, which is why you're seeing so many young people going back to church and being involved and converting to Christianity. I always say the example of, I went to Ohio State, for example. You had football players, Ohio State football players, some of the biggest big shots in the entire world, baptizing people outside of Curl Market, where I went for sandwiches about twice a week. It's right by my dorms. So the reason why religion has been such a stabilizing force in every culture that has gotten it right, by the way, that aren't radical, Christian theocrats that are enslaving people and using that as justification, or, Sharia law or Islamicism or whatever. The reason why it's been such a stabilizing force in every culture that's gotten it right, again, that hasn't gone off way right, way left, way whatever, is because it provides everything that people are looking for out of life, that people are actually looking for out of life. Family, ambition, community, love, acceptance, duty, responsibility. Religion provides all of those things. Christianity provides all of those things. And the interesting thing, and why I think Gen Z is specifically drawn to this, Gen Z has been robbed of all of those things. Family, ambition, community, love, acceptance, all those things. They have been robbed of all of them. All of them. Via our institutional failure, COVID pandemic, whatever. And they are using religion smartly to fill that gap. They are using religion to fill the gap. And that's the way it should be, because that God-sized hole that people talk about, that cliche that, kind of just pops up once in a while, that's what that is for. And that's why Gen Z is filling it with Christianity, with religion. And they are also seeing the flaws of atheism from prior generations and are rejecting that as well. From the boomers, from Gen X to all these passive, lukewarm Christians, that don't really, take the faith seriously, that go to church but aren't they're in church but they're not in Christ, as Mark Driscoll says. And they're rejecting that as well, which is a great thing. They're seeing kind of not only just this atheism, but this kind of bland, non-fiery Christianity, non-valuable Christianity. They're rejecting all of that. All of that. And because everything, again, needs to be proven. They're zealots in Gen Z. They're either zealots in a bad way, zealots in a good way. If they are zealots in a good way, they're wanting everything to be proven. They are not okay with people just being bland, meh, whatever. They're on fire or they're cold, one of the two, which is actually what Jesus says in Revelation 3 when he quotes that lukewarm verse, or when he says that lukewarm verse. So the truth is something that they all needed to sort through the madness of how they grew up, which is why religion, Christianity, is the biggest player in this equation. And this is just an incredibly positive development in so many ways. Not only because I want young people to come to Jesus and go to heaven and all that kind of stuff. Of course I want that. But America is a Christian nation. No matter how many people want to dispute that it isn't. Oh, it's Judeo-Christian. No, it's Christian. oh, it's a post-Christian. No, it's Christian. It was founded by Protestant Christianity. It wasn't founded by Catholicism. It wasn't founded by Orthodox. It was founded by Protestant Christians. It wasn't founded by Islamists. It wasn't, or Muslims. It wasn't founded by Hindus. It wasn't founded by Buddhists. It was founded by the Christians. When you look at the founding documents, when you look at the people that were on the Mayflower, everybody fleeing religious persecution, it was descendants of Martin Luther, Protestant Christianity, Calvinist Christianity. America is a Christian nation, no matter how many people want to dispute that it isn't. America is fundamentally great at its core because of its values, which are predominantly Christian in nature. So when its citizens embody that, the country thrives. When they don't, it falls apart. And by the way, no animosity to any of those groups. Fine. If you want to practice your religion, practice your religion. That's what America's for. But you cannot say that America is not a Protestant Christian nation at its core. It is. And what Gen Z, I think the biggest reason I have hope for Gen Z is that they are realizing this. And they're saying that, hey, this thing doesn't work, this thing doesn't work without the other thing. And that other thing is Christianity. It's God. And I think that's why the better part of Gen Z is doing really well, is because they realize that without God, this whole thing doesn't work. Life doesn't work. Country doesn't work. Family doesn't work. Everything is theological. Every conflict you have is theological. Everything important is theological at its core. And if you don't have that, then you're just spinning your wheels at that point. And it's just not a good thing. I'll put it mildly. Thank you all for watching. Own the day, open your mind, and I'll see you next week.